Have you ever looked at your busy schedule, like your job, your kids, your endless to-do list, friends, activities, and all the things, and thought, God, how am I going to make a kingdom impact with this schedule? Well, I've been there, and today I'm going to share 3 biblical principles that will help you be a culture shaper. Well, hey friend, welcome to the Heather Frierson Show, where we do all things faith, fashion, and fun. I'm a leadership coach, fashion lover, and just your go-to girl for all things purpose. And today we're going to be kicking off our day 1 of our 6-day challenge, Pivot into Purpose. So if you haven't gotten your free download yet, make sure to go do that right after the show if you're listening in the car, or just pause it right now. Scroll down to the show notes if you're listening to this or watching, and grab your free download so you can follow along and take the challenge with us. It's really easy and it's free. So let's get started. All right, first things first, let's talk about fashion. So today I have on the brand new, which is my favorite, leopard print dress with a bold stripe trim on the arm and the neck. It's in my boutique CW Collective, and I have to say I am loving it. This is my second time wearing it. I actually wore it on a girls' trip a few weeks ago just to test it out, and because when I unpacked it after ordering it, there were no wrinkles, and I thought, this can't be. But it's true. So I'm going to put it right here. You can see me wearing it on my little girl's trip that I took a few weeks ago to celebrate a friend's birthday. And I packed it up, and when I pulled it out, no wrinkles. I wore it during the day for lunch. Super airy, super fun and flirty. And then I actually just changed my shoes from tennis shoes to some cute little brown slides for our evening dinner. I didn't even change my outfit. I just kept it on. My plans were to change from day to night, and I didn't because I just didn't feel like I needed to. I had on tennis shoes during the day, came home, rested, or back to the hotel, freshened up a little bit, put on some slides, grabbed my jean jacket because sometimes in the restaurant it's cold, and I was set for the evening. It was that easy. So, like always, or I say like always, this is episode 2, so it's not like always, but just in case you're new, whatever I'm featuring in the episode, you of course get a discount code as a podcast listener. And today for this amazing leopard dress, I'm giving 15% off with the discount code Leopard Girl. And here's your fashion tip for the day. Leopard is a staple. There, I said it. Leopard is a staple. I know people might argue with me about this, but I'm telling you, I had this discussion last year with a friend that I met at a conference, and we were both in agreement, and I just can't shake that conversation. I'm just telling people all the time now. Leopard is a staple. It never goes away. It might be on trend right now, and it has like its rebirth every few years, but there is always a piece of leopard in my closet, from shoes to belt to accessories, a scarf, and right now, this amazing dress. So don't be afraid of leopard. That's my fashion tip for you today, because leopard is a staple and you can accessorize it in so many ways. I can throw my jean jacket like I talked about, and I can throw on a cute black blazer to dress it up with some pumps, and you're set. Leopard's a staple. So go get this dress, 15% off with the code Leopard Girl. All right, let's dig into today's topic, which is culture shaper. This has been something that I have been passionate about for over a year. I love the idea that we are all culture shapers. And I want to read to you from Matthew 5, verse 13 through 16. We've all heard this verse. I'm reading from the ESV. It says, "You are the salt of the earth, but if salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. Yuck! You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven." Last week on my premiere episode, I talked about how I had lost my voice. And this verse right here is really talking about being a light and salt and bringing saltiness to the earth, which I love because sometimes we love to be a little salty. And doing it in a way that brings about change and influence. And that's what we're talking about today, about being an influence right where you are. And, we can get so overwhelmed with the busyness of life and think, I cannot make a kingdom impact, thinking that to make a kingdom impact, we have to be in ministry and it looks a certain way, which I also touched on a little bit last week. But the reality is we can be salt and light wherever we are. Think about this. I've heard this quote about a year ago, and it's this. It says, creation is what God made and culture is what we make. And considering the culture that we're living in these days, that can sting a little bit, feeling like that maybe we had something to do with things that are going wrong. But it is true. And I want to help you today know 3 biblical principles that's going to help shape the culture around you, because we can't maybe change the whole world, but we can change our world around us. And here's what it says in Genesis 1:26 through 28. We all know the verse, but it says that we're made in God's image to multiply, subdue, and really cultivate. And that means that even our work is part of that. So let me just break that down. So we often think of multiply like children, which of course it does, and to multiply ourselves, to multiply the work that we do, to bring multiplication. God is a God of multiplication. And then subdue means to overcome, quiet, and bring under control. So we are to bring under control the earth that God says that we have authority over, and to cultivate, which I love that word cultivate, which is prepare and develop. And so if you think about the work that you're doing, let's take this podcast, for instance. I knew it was the Lord was wanting me to do this for a while so I could use my voice, so I could cultivate leaders and help other women. And I could only bring salt and light by using my own voice and doing the work that He's prepared for me to do. And so if you think about it, we're all called to use our gifts and talents. You've heard me say, if you've been around a lot, that our purpose is just to point people to Jesus. We really make the word purpose so hard sometimes, but the fact is our purpose is, as Christians, is only to point people to Jesus. And we get to do that. The how is through our individual gifts and talents. So if we are to multiply and we're made in God's image, then by being in that, by reflecting His image, we are culture shapers. That might have been a long way around, but you get the point that we are culture shapers. And so we often hear the phrase or the prayer, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. But often we don't, I feel like, at least my opinion, for me, for sure, I don't ask how to bring heaven to earth enough. How can I actually bring heaven to earth? And it's not just in big revivals that we do that, or in raising godly kids. It's really through cultivating the culture that's around us. If we want to see heaven brought to earth, we have to cultivate the culture by being salt and light. So how do we do that? Well, here's 3 biblical principles that I want to share really quick in this episode of how we can be culture shapers. Number 1, be salt and light, just like the verse says. Jesus said again in Matthew 5 that we carry the light, we bring the flavor, and our presence alone when we walk into a room makes a difference. So don't downplay where you are, what rooms you're in. The Bible says that we'll be in rooms that we never even thought we'd be in and sit with kings and queens. Own that position of when you walk into a room, even if it's one that feels dark, you bring that light. I remember, and I'll just give this example really quick. I'm a John Maxwell certified coach, and it was about almost 2 years ago now that I got certified. And at the conference, he actually had on his phone that he talked about, like the case cover, it said salt and light, and it was on there so he could remember that wherever he goes, he is the salt and the light. And so what was so interesting to me Of course, he has a big platform. And so I don't want you to miss the point just because you feel like you can't be on a big platform like he is. But as he spoke to an audience of thousands, and he would say, I'm a person of faith, and you don't have to be, but here's this tip. And I actually got that leadership tip in the Bible. And so to kind of bring it around, what I was so impressed with is that there was, during the conference when I was there, it was a 3-day conference, there was a prayer service or worship service. I can't remember what he called it, but it was optional. It wasn't part of the required gatherings to be a certified coach, to become one. And so, of course, I went, and they had worship, and he gave a Bible message. And then at the end, he gave an altar call. And hundreds of people went up. I'm not exaggerating. Hundreds of people went up. And I just could not stop crying. And I was so baffled by the way I was reacting, because I go to church every Sunday. Of course, I miss a couple a year, but I've grown up in church, and I've seen altar calls over and over and over again. And if you think about it, the altar call is when a lot of people get up and leave because it's become so routine. And as I was sitting there crying and could not stop crying, I was wondering, why am I crying so much? I see this all the time. But that was exactly the point that the Lord showed me. It's like, yes, it's become routine, and you're seeing people come to Jesus in this environment where it's not expected. And he was able to be the salt and the light in an environment where it wasn't expected. And it just made me think how often we forget, or I forget, to be the salt and life in a place or an atmosphere where it's not expected, just by showing up and being me and being the salt and the light. So I've never forget that. It's probably going to be a story that will impact me for the rest of my life, of how people came to know Jesus that day just because they were in the presence of someone that was constantly reminding himself that he is the salt and light by having it on his phone, and just by the invitation of, you don't have to come, but come. And they came. And I remember sitting at lunch right after that with some people, and just strangers, in fact, and just sharing how that moved me so much. And they said, yeah, in fact, a lot of those people are going back to their country knowing that they will be outcast because they accepted Jesus as their Savior. There were people from all over the world at that conference, not just from Austin, Texas, like I am. People that grow up or live in a different culture, and they are coming back to a culture that rebukes the Lord, and they are going to go back and shift that culture and be a culture maker, be salt and light, because they said yes to Jesus in an atmosphere that they did not expect it. So think about your job and where you're going. So that was number one, be salt and light. Number 2, speak truth with love. Ephesians 4:15 reminds us to speak truth in love. And so often we speak truth, that's just my truth, and I'm just going to say what I mean. No, speak it with love. And usually, I'll just put a caveat there, it's in a relationship. Not all influence is loud. You don't have to be a culture maker by being the loudest person on Instagram. That's not what I'm saying at all. So sometimes it's just speaking truth to someone that you love in love. Sometimes it's a conversation filled with honesty and compassion that really shifts not only the entire environment, maybe it's in the middle of a meeting, a boardroom, maybe it's in the middle of, those teenage fights that we hear about with our kids. At least I do. The drama of it all. But how are you speaking truth and love? Not avoiding truth. We can't avoid truth, but speaking it in love. So number 1, be salt and light. Number 2, speak truth with love. Number 3, lead with love and compassion. This really goes back to where you're leading. Everywhere in scripture, we're told to lead with love. Jesus led with love. And if we are to do what he did, he always loved people where they were. So when you step into your calling, or every day, whether you're a CEO or you're raising kids right at home, make sure love leads the way. And so those two go together, to speak truth in love and lead. If you're speaking truth in love, you're actually leading too. And so that's how we can really be salt and light and be kingdom shapers, culture shapers, right where we are. I remember thinking for years when I was in my college years and early 20s, I was never going to be in ministry. I'll share more of that story later, which I'm sure if you've been around long enough, you've heard me talk about it a little bit. But it was graduate fashion, which is why I love talking about fashion, and was working in the fashion industry. And the Lord took me out of it and put me into working at my local church. And it was there that I realized, oh my goodness, I have never prayed about my purpose or never prayed about God's direction. And he had put a passion for fashion in me. And so I just took off with it, and I had my faith in one box and my career and my choices in another box. I never combined my faith and my fashion, or faith and my career and my purpose. And so it was such a big revelation to me. And if we were to be salt and light, usually whatever God has put in you as a passion, he wants to take that creativity where you're made in his image. He's the ultimate creator, right? And bring that creativity out in a way that brings light to the world. I know that I've been able to use fashion throughout my career, if you will, through Creative Woman, through other things, to have as a conversation starter that will lead to Jesus. We used to have people come to our events all the time that heard about our fashion partner at our Gather Her events, and were like, oh, I was just coming for the fashion. I didn't know you were going to talk about Jesus too. And it was really an introduction to the conversation. And so just really understanding that we are to be salt and light and a culture shaper really we're able to do that through the very gifts and talents that the Lord gives us and how we're bent. He's creative. He's the ultimate creator. He's created you in such a way that is going to bring light and be a culture influence and change. So those are the 3 biblical truths. Now I want to give you 3 takeaways for today. If you're a note taker, or maybe you're just listening in the car and you have a good memory, these are the 3 key takeaways. Is 1, you're already positioned. Wherever you are, you're there on purpose. So pray about how where you are, you can be salt and light. Now, I do want to add a side note. Maybe off by chance you're listening to this podcast while you're in the club. That's probably is not an alignment of where God has positioned you. If it's not in alignment with his word, it is not God's purpose. So let's just say we are in alignment with God's word where we are. God has you there for a purpose. If you're seeking God's will for your life, he is true and will lead you into the truth. Number 2, culture shaping starts small. It starts with a kind word, a bold boundary, which I'm loving these days, a shift in the workplace attitude. These are all just kingdom seeds that you can do to be a culture shaper. So you're already positioned. Culture shaping starts small, and you have permission. I really want you to hear that. That is something that I feel like I'm in a season of taking ownership of more, is that I have permission. And I want you to know that you have permission too. Your ordinary is God's extraordinary. Your ordinary is God's opportunity too. All right, here's your challenge today. First, go download your free download, Pivot into Purpose. It's a 6-day challenge that I created just for you guys. It's absolutely free. You can get it in the show notes. You can get it on Instagram. You can get it in all the ways, heatherfrierson.net. And it's going to have a daily challenge in there. So your challenge today is to go download it and then take the daily challenges and start being the culture shaper right where you're called to be. All right. Once you download it, DM me and tell me how you're making those small shifts. Maybe they're big shifts to be a more salt and light and make a kingdom impact and be a culture shaper, because that's what you are. That's who you are. That's who God created you to be. And so I cannot wait until I hear from you. DM me, Heather Frierson 29, or use the hashtag Pivot into Purpose. All right. In the next episode, we are tackling something big, which is dreaming at the level of God's power. So let's get ready to take on day 2 of the challenge next week. And don't forget to go download your free download and use the code for the online shop, Leopard Girl. Well, all right, friends, if you feel like you need just a little extra clarity, then let's chat. Just one-on-one, me and you. I offer 30-minute coffee and coaching sessions to help you get unstuck and take action in just 30 minutes. So if that's something you want to take advantage of, be sure to grab a spot on my calendar through the link in the show notes, and I would love to help you. Also, talking about being a culture shaper and making a kingdom impact. So over at Creative Woman, my nonprofit, we're on a mission to empower women by equipping them with the tools they need to embrace their purpose and dreams. As part of this mission, we're committed this year to providing 300 books to 300 women for 2025, ensuring that women stepping into new seasons of life have the resources they need to grow and thrive. It's really through our books and programs that we're able to reach women who are stepping out of challenging circumstances and into a brighter future. We've already been able to donate books to women, to single moms, an organization out of South Carolina, and right here in Austin, Texas, through an organization that helps women on the streets. You can be a part of this mission, whether it's a one-time gift or joining us as a monthly donor for just $30. And I promise your generosity will directly impact the lives of women to step boldly into their God-given calling and find so much freedom. If you go to creativewoman.net, you can click the donate button, and there you can donate $30, or you can donate maybe $60 and say, give one, buy one, and we'll make sure you get a book too. Well, all right, friends, this has been fun. I can't wait till next week's episode. And until then, like I always say, don't do anything unless it's fun. Bye.